Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. This is Gaurri A Kadam. The topic that we're going to be talking on today is a topic very close to my heart, has been a huge part of my healing journey. And the guest on my channel today is someone who has not only been studying the healing modality for the past couple of years, but is now addressing it and teaching it not only in India, but across the globe. He is invited by multiple institutes across the globe to teach the healing modality, not only to common people, but to healers, practitioners, and medical students. And it's really an honor to welcome Mr. Advait Danke. Advait Danke is an internationally certified sound therapist, music therapist, and Nada Yoga teacher with Ayurveda. He is a project director at BodhMarga Foundation and Wellness Vibe. With an experience of over 4+ years in spirituality and wellness, he is on a mission to be a catalyst for spiritual awakenings and expanding the consciousness through sound, devotion, and Nada Yoga under the guidance of Nada Yogi Vibhushri. He has successfully conducted 180 plus events and impacted 3,000 plus lives across the globe through his work. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Advait Danke.
Thank you, Gauriji, for such a heartful welcome. I'm honored to be here on this special episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to being a part of my YouTube channel and the podcast. Like I said, even in your introduction, I am super excited to have this conversation with you about this healing modality because I know what an impact it has had in my life and in my healing journey. So thank you. Thank you for coming on the channel and having this conversation with me. So, moving on to the first question, you are a project director at the BodhMarga Foundation and are internationally certified as a sound therapist, which is known as Raga Chikitsa, and you take immense interest in Ayurveda. So, I want to know, what was your journey towards spirituality? How did you find your calling?
I have never been inclined to the spirituality or the yogic practices or even the meditation, to name it as such. It began with certain events. So there are many things in our life which help us to reach where we are. You can call it as a destiny, you can call it your intuition, you can call it your calling. For me, it started because of the kind of hollowness that I was facing through in my life from my academics aspect, completing my engineering studies in computer science. And before even that, I have been learning classical vocals since my childhood. So the ingrained learnings and the teachings of the importance of a guru in a life, the importance of music in one's entire journey, that was ingrained to me since my childhood by my music teachers, by my gurus. So the music was an integral part of my life, and from that aspect, during my entire education, I was only and only interested in making a career out of it. So how to become a music composer or a trained vocalist, to perform and to help people achieve this, the aspect of music in their life. But that was not happening. So during my entire academics, as we say in India, it's only about maybe you become an engineer or a doctor or something which is, fitting in the ordinary circle. So during my academics, I was never basically interested in doing the education part. I was only interested in the music part. And during that journey itself, I started performing as a vocalist. I started performing as a DJ. So I used to tour around Mumbai. I used to tour around India as a electronic music performer. I used to perform in the top A-rated clubs. But my life was going awesome, being a DJ, being a music performer. But the same thing at the same point, internally I was never satisfied. Internally I was very hollow. Even though externally I was achieving the success more than an engineer should, in terms of the fame, in terms of the respect among my peers, even through the financial aspect. But internally I was never satisfied because there was a hidden guilt, because I had discontinued my classical singing, discontinued my, the teachings of the Guru Shishya Parampara. That is how, there was a inner hollowness, that even though I was performing in the top clubs, even in front of 800 plus audience, I was never satisfied. I was never happy with what I'm doing, even though I was pretending in front of the people that I'm happy. So that point of hollowness, that led me to spirituality, that led me to seeking, that led me to actually find the purpose that I was looking for. In short, from that, being a DJ, now being into the musical aspect, but the context has been shifted. Earlier it was the dance music, but now it is the music which can heal your body, which can heal your mind, and it can call your soul, the calling of the soul.
Wow, that's very profound. Just, visualizing your journey from the multiple phases that you went through. And you even addressed that calling, that side of your calling where you stepped into DJing. Like, that's a different industry altogether. When I was reading your bio, I definitely could say that you are a person who is not shy of trying multiple things in your life to understand whether this is in alignment with me or not. It was very inspiring just reading about you before I even framed these questions and seeing your journey. And now that you're sharing that with me. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It really shifted from, being a DJ at clubs and, partying with people till 3 a.m. And now I start my journey in my day at 3 a.m. singing the kirtans and the bhajans. So the total 180 shift from being into the aspect of DJing and now being into the aspect of singing kirtans. So that shift has been really transcendental for me as an individual being. And now when I'm seeing, it is helping the vibrations that I'm imbibed with, that is naturally helping the people that I am in contact with. So it is all because of the blessings of the lineage that I belong to, and it is all because of the blessings of the gurus that have been in my, the contact through which I have been in my life.
I am someone who believes in the importance of the lineage and the importance of, the ancestral teachings that come down through the lineage. Someone who's really in awe of my gurus. So that is something that completely resonates with me as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on to the next question. What is the BodhMarga Foundation?
BodhMarga Foundation is founded by Nada Yogi Vibhushri, Riveshwade. So it was conceptualized during 2012. BodhMarga essentially means Bodha. Bodha is a very divine word. It literally translates to the divine awareness. And Marg means the path. So the path which leads you to the divine awareness is the path of the BodhMarga. And the path of the BodhMarga is very simple. It is the shortest path and the quickest path for the spiritual awakening. Because nowadays, the way we have been introduced to the practices of getting into the spiritual growth or into the yoga or into the meditation or the practices or the kriya or actions, or maybe to do a lot of tapasya to reach to the point of liberation, to reach to the point of the mukti. But there is a path which is effortless, there is a path which is very quick, and that is the path of Bodh Marga. We generally call it in the spiritual terms as the Vihangam Marg. Vihangam means the flight of the bird. So you literally take a flight in the life, and it's just beautiful. Helps you to move from the lower vibrations to the higher vibrations to the point of the Jivan Mukti.
You don't just address one thing, you are addressing quite a lot of things. And you're not just working with one healing modality, there are multiple healing modalities that the practitioners in the foundation are working with to address healing as a whole for the beings that are coming to visit them for guidance.
Yes, healing is just one part of it. Healing is a natural outcome. We never focus on healing issues or the people that are going through the sufferings, because the suffering is kind of a compulsion in one's life. The suffering is never optional. We all suffer. But getting out of the suffering is very much a conscious choice. It is the individual's choice, the being's choice, to come out of the suffering and to go towards the awakening. So we focus on the awakening part. The healing part, it is a holistic achievement which is the outcome of it. For an example, when we listen to the music, we do not listen to the notes or to the surs or the swaras. We listen to the emotion of it. We listen to the entire context. Similarly, in the Bodh Marga, it is not about the practice. It is not about the the doing part. It is about the happening part. And here we generally do it with the science of vibrations and Nada Yoga. So we introduce the science of vibrations and the awakening structure to the people, and then the practice is completely up to the individual, but the awakening is a sure shot phenomenon. It's a happening.
And this is a question that comes to my mind immediately when you say that. According to you, what is soul awakening?
There have been many, the descriptions about the awakening, about the soul, but generally when we refer to the classic Vedantic scriptures, the awakening is nothing but you realizing the light within and the possibility of bodh prapti or the atma prapti, the atma gyan or the tattva gyan. So the awakening is nothing but that you realizing that you're not the body, you are not the mind, you're not the patterns associated with the body and the genetics, you're not the patterns associated with the mind, which is the emotions, thoughts, the identity, the ahankara basically, or the ego, and you're not identified with these attachments. Generally, people are getting attached with their own sufferings created by the patterns with the body, all the physiological conditions, the diseases are there, the lethargy of the body is there. The body is divine, but at the same time it can cause the hurdle, it can cause a trap for growing into the spiritual awakening. So at the same time, considering the divinity of the mind, how can we be into the intelligence of it, the higher intelligence of the mind, because only the human beings have the conscious choice to have the intellect, to have the buddhi. All the other species point yet to have their own thought, to have their own emotions, or to basically choose between having the thought and emotion. They are behaving with their genetics associated with their body and with their mind. So awakening is nothing but you getting disassociated with the attachments and the patterns with the body and the mind, and then realizing the consciousness within. So this is a very simple definition of awakening, and this is what the bodha does to you. When we get situated in the bodh prapti, the awakening is natural. Then there are multiple dimensions ahead of that, but for normal person to get into the awakening, this is a very simple aspect of it.
So basically, disattaching yourself to the multiple labels that we have put on ourselves right from childhood, like completely releasing those labels, those attachments, those conditionings, those patterns, those limiting beliefs that we have associated ourselves with. That's very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Moving on to the next question, which is diving into the topic. First of all, I want you to address what is sound healing. And then the second part of the question is that sound healing can be approached on two different levels. One is scientific, and the other one is spiritual. So, can you please explain to me and to the viewers what is the significance of sound healing scientifically, and then what is the significance of sound healing on a spiritual level?
So sound is the existence itself. If we see, we are just a vibration, we are just a frequency, right from the smallest atom to the biggest object there is in the universe, it is vibrating at a certain frequency. Now this fact itself has been now proven to us by the scientist, by studying the quantum mechanics, the quantum physics, the quantum field that we are living into. Basically everything is vibrating at a certain frequency, and if those frequencies are not aligned in a particular order, then there is a disharmony, there is a dissonance which is getting created in our system. So if we see the planets, there is a certain harmony in them, there is a particular alignment of frequencies, that is why they are into a particular shift. So when we miss this frequency and the alignment of these vibrations, we start to be the misalignment from the correct order. The sound therapy is nothing but a catalyst, you can say an external agent through which we introduce certain powerful sounds, powerful frequencies, through which the disorder gets replaced with the correct order. So that is nothing but the simple definition for sound therapy, in which the external sounds which are divine in form, which are higher in the vibrational capacities, they are getting introduced to the system. And the system basically is intelligent enough, our body and mind is intelligent enough to remove the frequencies of disorder which are not suitable for us. So this is nothing but the sound therapy. And here the sound can be divided into two parts. One is the external sound through which the sound therapy is taken care. If you see in my background in my Nad Mandir, so we generally use the Siddha tool. It's a tantric tool given by the ancestors, which is called as the singing bowl in modern language. But in the ancient scriptural terms, it has been named as the Ghosh Pushpa. Ghosh is a nad, it's the highest form of a sound. When we generally say Ghosh, it's the authority. So Ghosh Nad and the Ghosh Pushpa. So the singing bowl, no one knows from where the origin has been there, or no one knows the Hindi name. So right now, to all the viewers, the name for the singing bowl is termed as the Ghosh Pushpa or Ghosh Kundi, and it has been coined by the Nath Sampradaya, the Nath lineage, the Nath tradition of the yogis. And especially we can also see the name getting mentioned in Jnaneshwari by Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj. So externally, when we want to take care of the sounds that are imbalanced in our system, they can be taken care with the singing bowls and the gongs, and with the combination of Ayurveda, of course. And then there is the part of internal sound. Internal sound is nothing but the beginning of the Nada Yoga. Broadly classifying the sound therapy into two parts, there is the external sound which can be taken care, which is very much beneficial for psychological conditions, for physiological conditions. And then for moving towards the spiritual path, it is the sound of the inner self. It is the sound of your internal organs. It is the sound of your internal systems through which you start to be into the higher levels of meditation. Basically, the samadhi happens through the internal sounds, not through the external sounds. To classify to the scientific level, of course, now the modern research shows us how the impact of sound and music can create on the body. You or the viewers right now, you are not listening to me just with our eardrums, but the entire body is listening to me or the voice. Entire body listens to any kind of a music or vibration that we listen to till the DNA level. And at the same time, there is the spiritual sounds which are not heard by the common, or you can say by the visible self of the body and the mind, which are not heard. There is a famous proverb in Zen also, the sound of the unstruck clap. There is a famous Zen quote which actually refers to the sound of the inner nadas. So to classify, there is the scientific level at which the body and the mind can be helped, and then for the spiritual levels, the sound of the inner self is the approach.
I was even reading about this a couple of days ago, and something that was a very big aha moment for me when I read that is that every organ in our body has a different sound. Obviously, we know the heart, the beat of the heart, but every organ in our body has a different sound. Every cell in our body has a different sound. Every tissue in our body, ligament, nerves, your spine, your bone structure, every single thing that is being made up to make this body has a different sound and a different frequency. And I was blown away by that information. So, what you're saying is very much in alignment with that. So, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that information.
That is what we generally refer as the resonance. Each and every cell, each and every DNA has its own sound, and it gets resonated with the correct amount of external sound and the internal sound that we provide to the particular organ or the tissue or the gland, so as to correct the vibrational alignment at that particular issue. That is why when we refer to the pain in the body, the pain in the muscle, the pain in the tissues, the pain in the body is nothing but a factor due to which the vibrational alignment is not correct at that particular energy level and at that particular organ. So if we introduce the correct sounds and the resonant sounds, the pain can be disappeared, the issues at that particular local region of the body can be very much recovered with the particular sounds and frequencies.
Plus, when I work with my clients, especially when we are doing chakra healing and chakra balancing, every chakra has its own sound, a different frequency that we work with. So that again resonates with what you're saying, that every cell, every DNA structure has its own vibration, its own frequency. And in order to heal that trauma that you have taken in or inculcated through your journey, can be healed through the external sound as well as working on yourself internally using your internal sound modality, and then that can heal itself. So thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on to the next question, which is in relation to the last question. What are vibrations?
So vibrations in terms of the physics you meant to say, or in terms of the spiritual aspect?
On both levels, on a scientific level and on a spiritual level, what are vibrations?
So vibrations is nothing but the change in the energy, the change in the the transfer of the particles from the compression aspect to the rarefaction aspect. If you see the sound wave, it is nothing but the transfer of the energy from one point to another point. When we see to the sine wave or a square wave, so it has the peak and it has the down peak, and the particles shift from one particular aspect of the energy to the next point or the next node of the energy. So this is what generally, of course there is more towards the technical aspect when we refer to the scientific terms from the vibrations. The vibrations move at a different the speed when we refer to the hard medium or through the liquid medium or through the air medium. But when we refer to the aspect of spiritual science or the yogic science, the vibrations is nothing but the tattva. It is the tattva, and these tattvas are imbibed in our yogic as well as in the tantric scriptures. And these tattvas are basically the five panchamahabhutas. The tattvas and the vibrations are very much connected. In the tantric aspect or in the Shaivism aspect, it is very much referred to as the spanda. And that is why in the BodhMarga aspect, we also share the science of Spanda Shastra. So Spanda is nothing but the vibration. Shastra means the rules and the guidance which govern the vibrations. What Spanda Shastra says to us, in our life, we are governed by these spandas, and there is the Unmesh and Nimesh. So Unmesh is nothing but the high peak, and Nimesh is nothing but the downward peak. So spiritually, when we study the vibrations, we understand that our life is nothing but the combination of Unmesh and Nimesh. The different combinations and the different node points in our life, in which we are at certain points we are traveling from the Nimesh to Unmesh, in which our energies are transforming from the lower aspect to the higher aspect. And what the Spanda Shastra says is, while moving from Nimesh to Unmesh or from Unmesh to Nimesh, we have to keep on analyzing our vibrations. We have to constantly be in the tattvas of these vibrations, the Panchamahabhutas, and then the tattvas, which is guiding us. In simple language, it is about you understanding your own vibrations. So that is what the spiritual aspect can be referred as, to know our own vibrations, to know thyself. It is nothing but to know our own vibrations. Which vibrations I'm vibrating at this current moment, what my body is going through, what my mind is going through, and these all are referred with the tattvas. So the tattvas can be again broadly classified into the Pancha Mahabhutas. Then there are certain tattvas of the mana. Then there are certain tattvas which are there referred in the Vedantic scriptures. So from the scientific aspect, it is nothing but the transfer of energy from one point to another point. But when we refer to the spiritual science, it is a complex phenomenon.
So, this next question is in relation to what you're talking about. In an interview of yours, you mentioned something, and I'm quoting you in that your cellular structure and our DNA is in constant communication with our thoughts. Now, I know that our thoughts are vibration, and whatever I am thinking, I am vibrating that from within outside into my energetic field. But could you please elaborate how our thoughts, be it positive or negative, have an impact on our cellular structure and our DNA?
So I would like to refer Dr. Bruce Lipton here because he is one of the pioneers in the field of epigenetics. So what he refers to the epigenetics, the earlier genetics used to tell us that our genes or the DNA structures cannot be modified. If my parents or ancestor had a certain illness, I had the major percentage that I will also go through that genetic disorder. It can be a chronic disorder, it can be a deadly disorder, it can be any kind of a disorder or disease. But now what epigenetics tells us, the new science of DNA tells us, that our DNAs can be constantly modified, and they can be modified with external environment. So the external environment is nothing but the vibrations, and this external environment comprises of the light, the vibrations of the light, the vibrations of the sound, the vibrations of the food that we eat, the vibrations of the planets, the vibrations of the surroundings that we have been introduced with. That is why if you see in our culture, the Jyotish, the science of studying the planets and the astronomical movements, the Vastu, the science of the spaces around us, all the sciences actually now, if we study the new quantum science, the quantum field, and the epigenetics, all the new ancient science can be modified and can be given out to the new generation with this study, because the ancient sciences, they basically referred to our doshas and our prakruti vikruti. They didn't refer to DNS, but they referred in a very Sanskrit terms, that the doshas can be modified, the prakriti can be modified, the vikruti can be modified, and this is how we can come to the conclusion by studying the epigenetics, and even by seeing the facts mentioned in the scriptures, that constantly the external environment has the impact on our DNAs. Maybe they are tuned with fear, so the vibrations of the fear, they travel in our DNA, and then they start to make a shift in the DNA. And now the DNA is responsible for the communication which is there with our internal cells, with our organs, and ultimately to the body, and then the connection with the mind. So if the vibrations are of fear, then majority I will be in the fear. If the surrounding vibrations are in a depression, that then it will mold me to be in the depression. This is a very simple fact. You can study this, or a very profound experience. For an example, right now we are in Mumbai, but let's take a scenario that we are traveling to somewhere in other cities or in other location. Immediately when we travel to that particular location or that particular vastu, our energy level changes, our thoughts changes, our emotion changes. If that location has been abandoned, in terms of the location has a certain amount of distress, immediately we start to sense that distress in the body. Immediately our thought pattern changes. Immediately we start to feel that I should not be in this place, let's go out of the place. And if we go to a vastu in which, or even a location or a place or a vacation where the location has been introduced with positive vibrations, then immediately we start to feel a kind of love, or a kind of looking forward at a kind of looking forward attitude. So these are the simple facts and notions through which the epigenetics can be experienced, and then the ancient science of this yogic scriptures can be very much experienced in our day-to-day life. So this is how, in short, the external vibrations impact our DNA, and further the DNA starts to communicate it with the cells, with the body tissues, and with the body and the mind. And this is how we start to surface our thoughts and emotions.
I remember that when I do step out of this busy city, just as simple as just going to Nasik, visiting my aunt and my uncle, and then just coming back, the minute I step onto that land, like we're driving through that land, it feels different. The vibration of the city feels different. Like I enjoy going for walks over there as compared to going for a walk here. I would really think twice if I want to go for a walk here. I'd rather go to the gym. But over there, just going out for a walk or walking through the streets, because over there, even the streets are filled with trees and there's so much greenery around. It feels fresh. I feel enlightened after I have just gone for a weekend and come back, or even going to the hill stations or places where there's not so much chaos. And then when you come to a city which is constantly running, it never even sleeps at night. So the vibration of these two different places does feel different, and it does have an impact on me. So what you're saying definitely resonates.
As a human beings, we generally take action based on our emotions. So if the vibrations that we are getting introduced are not in the correct order, if they are in a distress, if they are basically combined with a lot of fear, then anger, jealousy, hatred, war kind of a situation, or if you see the current pandemic situation, if those vibrations are there in the surrounding places, then they start to impact our thoughts and emotions. And when these thoughts and emotions are getting impacted, the same reflections are getting accumulated in our actions. So that is why the surrounding plays a very important role in anyone's life. If you see, if it's not only for the spiritual journey, but if you want to be a better person, maybe if you want to be a successful athlete, you have to be in a surrounding where the environment supports you for being a great athlete. If you want to be a musician, a great legendary musician, the surrounding plays an important role. And that is why in our ancient culture, the Gurukul system had the highest amount of contribution, because the Gurukul system was a carefully modified system in which you have to be at the ashram, you have to be in the surroundings, you have to be in the satsang, a community of people who are seeking the truth, of people who are seeking their life at a very different perspective, and that creates a shift in your internal patterns. If you want to ask me what is the shortest way to success, I'll tell you, go to the person or sit in that person's environment that you want to do. For an example, if you want to be a millionaire, go around that circle where people have been achieved the status of millionaire, and they are actually living the status, they're living the millionaire lifestyle. And that is how. So it is not only for the spiritual aspect, but in terms of our relationship, in terms of our financial success, in terms of our career success, the environment plays a huge role. But at the same time, there is a contradiction here. If we say that the environment is deciding our DNA and the thoughts and emotions, then when I will be able to decide my destiny? So when we start to grow in our spiritual growth, we come at a point in which we start to influence the network, we start to influence the environment around us. So this is the state ideally which anyone should reach, from environment affecting us, and then slowly we enhance our vibrations, and then we affect the environment.
I mean, going back to the point where you were talking about be in the vibration of the people that you want to, like your role models that you look up to, or the goals that you want to achieve, be it spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, be around those people. This is something I even tell my clients that if I want to see where you will be 5 years down the line, I will not look at you. I will look at the people that you are interacting with. I will look at the environment that you are in, because that will dictate your journey moving forward on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a mental level, or on a spiritual level. It does have an impact. And like you said, in the end, your environment shouldn't be dictating your vibrations. You should be dictating your vibration, which then influences the environment around you. So, very beautifully said.
So that is what our yoga says to us, that you should not react to the vibrations around, you should respond to it. So moving towards the conscious living, the conscious lifestyle is nothing but you responding in a very neutral manner to all the situations which is happening in your life. This is where the Gita tells us that be sthita pragya. Sthita pragya is nothing but that you are in your wisdom, you are in your bodha, and the navel, basically, when we talk about the navel or the nabhi, it's the situation in which we are rooted, we are anchored in our navel, because the vibrations, basically, there are pathways through which vibrations enter our system, basically through the navel, through the eyes, through the head. So there are certain pathways which we can consciously see to it, that how we can consciously protect our own self, consciously respond to our vibrations, and see to it that how we enhance the vibrations around us.
Again, like this definitely resonates when I do chakra healing with my clients, when I'm giving them Reiki, or we're working on the Akashic records. What you say definitely resonates, because even when I'm guiding them through multiple different meditations, taking them through even past life, sometimes there are multiple channels through which the information can come in, and then even the negative toxic energy or vibration can get released from your body. So thank you for sharing that. Moving on to the next question: how does every emotion that we feel have an impact on our vibration and our energetic field?
So, as we discussed right now, the emotions are a very strong point or a strong hold through which we take action. Generally, when we move towards the conscious living, then the thought and emotion or the moods that we go through or the body which goes through, they should not determine our conscious based choice and decisions. But when we are not growing into the awareness, when we are not growing towards our own bodha or towards the awakening, then the emotion plays a very important role for making any kind of a decision, be it in your career, be it in your relationships. The financial decisions that we make, they are basically governed by the moods and the emotions that we go through. So the emotions are nothing but the vibrations. When we talk about scientifically, every thought, every emotion that we get is nothing but a vibration, and these vibrations, they are governed by, again, the environment that we have been introduced, by the genetic patterns that we have inherited, the traumas that we go through. So these factors, basically, there are more factors, even the factors when we were in our womb, in the mother's womb. So what the mother and the father went through during the entire process of 9 months, so that factor is there. Then the traumatic experience that we go through, so all these factors basically contribute to our emotions, to the vibrations of these emotions. Generally, what people, 99% of people, go through in the life is nothing but the haywire in their thoughts and in their emotions. They think something else, they feel something else, and they do something else. So it's a complete mishap, it's an accident. So their head is on a different level, their heart is on a different level, and their navel is doing something else. So when we start to consciously be into the journey of, correcting our frequencies through the sound therapy and through the practices of Nada Yoga, what happens is that the alignment starts to happen with our head, meaning the thoughts that we have, the emotions that we go through with our heart, and then the actions or the karmas that we release through our navel. So they start to be into the correct alignment. So when we shift our vibrations from lower vibrations, or from the lower emotions of fear, guilt, the traumas, the anger, the jealousy, the hatred, you can say the separation consciousness, when we move from these lower habits to higher habits, or to the higher emotions which are of love, neutrality, courage, peace. Then there are the frequencies of forgiveness, compassion, the frequencies of oneness, the experience of Advaita itself, what our scriptures have been saying about. The world is just one family. When we shift our energies and vibrations with the sound therapy towards the higher emotions, then the actions are completely else. Our decisions are completely else. They are not based on our emotions, but they are based on the needs of the situation. They are based on the current events which are going. They are very relevant. Or else, all our decisions are influenced by the past. If we see in a normal living, all the decisions are nothing but based on our memory and based on our imagination. Something we imagined, which will may or which may not even happen in the future, it's the illusion. And something which has already happened, which is there in our memory. So the emotions are very important to manage, and the vibrations which they trigger the emotions are very important as well. So when we do the sound therapy, when we do the Nada Yoga, these vibrations can be managed at a very higher level. We sail through the life. Instead of making struggles in our life, we sail through the life. When I referred to the path of effortless living, it is nothing but you vibrating at a very high frequency of neutrality, of compassion, and where the ease is always there with you. You are never disturbed by what is going around the world. So that's a beautiful living, I think. You are just in yourself, and in that self, nothing else is getting disturbed. You are not getting disturbed. You actually are the leader of your own life. You basically govern your life, not the others.
Like, even when you think about it, if you are triggered by a situation or you're affected by a situation on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level, you are somehow giving power to the situation as compared to having the power within to deal with whatever comes your way. So if you are agitated, angry, frustrated, you're somehow just giving your power away. And that's something I always tell my clients, that why would you give the steering wheel of your super expensive car in the hands of someone who doesn't even know driving or just has gotten their driving license? Have the driver's wheel in your own hand and drive your car on your own trajectory, moving forward in the path that you choose to move forward in. That's very profound what you just said. Thank you. The next question, in the same interview, you have even like touched base on this right now, that your environment governs your vibrations. So could you please elaborate a little bit on that?
The environment is into the frequencies of hate, the vibrations basically govern our entire system. So if the environment is in the situation of war, then there is a war going internally, then there is a conflict going internally. If we have been, born and raised in a different city, our entire behavior would have been different, our language would have been different, the behaviors that we do from day to day activities, they would have been different. So that is how the environment basically, even right now, if we go to another country and if we stay there for more than 90 days, we will start to pick up their accent, we will start to pick up their habits, we will start to pick what is there in the environment. And this is what evolution has done to us. It's very natural, it's the way of living in harmony with the nature. It is there inbuilt with us, because in the ancient times the humans had to move from one place to another constantly. They had to move because they never had a civilized way of living, basically a organized way of living. They were always on the toes, they were always, getting introduced by the wild animals or maybe the natural disasters. So the entire system is carefully designed by the nature itself to adapt always. And that is why we should learn from this to be into the nature of dynamism, because the nature is always, the universe is always into the frequencies of dynamism. It is always changing, it is never constant. Adi Shankaracharya tells us, when he refers to everything is a illusion, everything is a maya, what he refers to that, one part to clarify in this interview, he refers to this ever changing nature of the prakriti. He basically mentions that everything is a vibration and it is ever changing, so let's get adapted to that. So this is our system, the way the system has been trained. And the environment affects us, and it should affect us, because it's a reminder to our ego, to our identity, that we are not bigger than the environment. We are not bigger than this planet Earth. We are a small replica of it. And at the same time, when we are growing spiritually, which kind of environment should not determine our factors? The negative environment, the negative emotions, the negative thoughts, the drama that people do, that should not affect us. But the planets, but the Mother Earth, the animals, they should definitely impact us. They should definitely impact our living. The plants that we have been surrounded with, they have the authority to impact our living, and they should.
Wow, very profound. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving to the next topic, which is very new to me. I have no knowledge about this, so I will be learning as you speak about it. What is Nada Yoga?
So Nada Yoga is nothing but the yoga of sound, and Nada means the divine sound, the divine vibrations. The definition or the way the yoga has been introduced to any kind of a people through the internet or the media, they generally refer to the science of asanas. But yoga is not that. It's just 1% of yoga. Yoga is nothing but the union, the unification of you with the higher consciousness, the unification of you with the universe. So Nad Yoga is a method through which we get one with the universe, we get one with the self through the sound. And Nad Yoga is nothing but the end level of any spiritual practice. The samadhi is usually entered with the practice of Nad Yoga, because ultimately it is about the vibrations. Any kind of yoga that we perform, be it heart yoga, be it Ashtanga yoga. So these are nothing but the vibrational alignment that we do with the systems of the body and the systems of the mind, so that we can prepare ourselves for the Nada Yoga.
Nad Yoga, as you say, is all about sound, like being in alignment with the universal sound from within and then with the universe. And then performing yoga, am I right in understanding the concept?
No, performing yoga is not there in Nada Yoga. For taking the samadhi or for taking the conscious living, the Nada Yoga is there. The earlier yoga that we practice, it is for the preparation. It is like an entrance exam for Nad Yoga. Nad Yoga is nothing but the experience itself with the sound. And generally, it is practiced in the presence of the master, in the physical presence of the master. Then only it happens to you. Nad Yoga is not about any asanas or about any kriya. It is the end part of any yogic practice.
Even when you mentioned that this is not very well known and not many people know about it, same here. I had no knowledge about this, and now you have enlightened me, and I'll definitely go and do my research, and I will do my bit of, doing the theory study on this topic. But it's very interesting to understand that there is yoga all about vibrations and sound. So thank you for enlightening not only the audience but me as well. So thank you so much.
What we generally do is we have been programmed in the new way of living, or with the educational system, that when we refer to a new term, we generally do something with the doing domain. That is what we generally do. So when we have to study new things, or when we have to learn new skills, or even to learn the art of yoga and meditation, generally people do is about doing. I hope you are getting the difference, that they go into the cycle of doing. But the real yoga and the real meditation, it is about happening to you. It is about you unlearning everything, and then the art happens to you. So that is where my guru tells that the music, the yoga, and the love should happen to you. You should not do it. If you do it, then it is from a compulsion. If we start to do yoga, then it is from a compulsion. It is not from the universal aspect. It is not from the happening domain. It is not natural. So in the ancient times, this yoga, any kind of yoga, basically happened to people. The people were in such a grace, the people were so simple, the people were so innocent, that the kriyas, the asanas, the natural way of living, like the Ayurveda, the holistic way of living, it happened to them. They didn't have to do any external research or even external degrees to achieve that way of living. It happened to them. That is the effortless way of living. It should happen to you.
True.
And that is the beautiful way of living.
As you even talk about it, they were so aligned with not only themselves but their environment that it was a way of life for them. It wasn't something that, oh, I need to study this, or oh, I need to, learn this. It was something that I feel like this. What can help me either get over this feeling and live a better life? And then they were somehow either guided by the Vaidyas around them or by their internal knowing that this is probably an herb that you can take, or this is a concoction, an Ayurvedic concoction that you can make and try. So they were very aligned. Our ancestors, like, we take it so lightly that we have this information and we take it so lightly. And then when you see that the West is adapting all our information, our scriptures, and bringing it to life, we should really give, like, hold space and honor the information that our ancestors, the lineage that we have come from. It holds a vast amount of information, and if you tap into it, any problem that you have or any situation that you face, you will get the answer to it. You will find a path that will lead towards a solution or fulfillment or contentment in any way possible.
Very beautifully said, Gauriji, that the ancient scriptures and our ancestors, basically the masters, the gurus, the saints, they have provided us with beautiful guidelines to live a life which is there with peace, which is there in harmony with the nature. It is there, lovingly. You can live the life with people around you. Right now, what is happening around the world, people are not comfortable with their own self, and they are not comfortable with their own partners. So if they are not even comfortable in their homes, if we see in the lockdown situations, people were completely in a very distressed situation, even in their own family. If we think at a very larger perspective, if we really think what the scriptures have given the guidelines to us, we should really, as a nation, we should come forward, of course, to honor and to make the scriptures live again.
Like, when I think about it, there was a reason why that yug was called Satyug, because people were living in abundance. They were living a prosperous life. They were not living in scarcity. They were living from a very fulfilled area of life, be it on their health perspective, their family perspective, their surroundings. Like, they were in connection with their neighbors. Like, today, if you ask me a lot about our neighbors, I can put in a little bit of effort, but the constant effort is somehow not there because we lead such a busy life. And when you see the past, it's just so beautiful just to imagine it and envision it, that yes, our ancestors were truly living. When they say the art of living, they were actually having an art of living, as compared to we now. We have to practice the art of living, as compared to when our ancestors, they were just living it effortlessly. It was a way of their life. Moving on to the next question. In another interview of yours, you mentioned that sound therapy and Nada Yoga is beyond the mind. So, how does that work in the current times when we live in an era of constant thinking? How does Nada Yoga and sound therapy address that?
So, what the mind wants, as again, when we refer this question of scriptures, the great stories from our ancestors. Now, what the rational mind wants to do, the rational mind wants to prove them in terms of any metrics. They want numbers. What does the rational mind want? As a proven fact. It wants, in terms of written, you can say proof, that okay, did that happen? Where is the proof? Show me, where is the proof? That is what the normal mind, the ego mind actually does, the ahankara or the place of the identity. So the mind, when I referred, is the ego mind, and the ego mind always wants a proof. It always wants a rational number, meaning the rationality, the logicality. It always wants the way in which we should have to prove something or the other. When we refer to our scriptures or to the science of yoga, to this art of sound therapy and Nada yoga, or even fact of nowadays people are trying to put the facts of yoga and meditation into the numbers and research. Let's take an example of two scientists. One is a scientist, but one is a normal scientist, and the other another person is the Buddha. Buddha is nothing but a person who has achieved this state of Buddhahood. So the scientist will prove the same fact by ruining his entire life, that everything is just a vibration. He will not have a command on his own body, on his own mind, on his own thoughts and emotions, and he will not experience the reality that he is trying to prove through the mathematical equations. He is doing a wonderful effort. The entire world should recognize his efforts. But at the same time, for his individual expression, he is not achieving the highest state of consciousness. He is just trying to reach there by the mathematical equation. But the mind is such a small entity which cannot comprehend the universal knowledge, the universal revelations. But if we compare to the state of Buddhahood, the Buddha who has seen it, who has achieved it, who is living it, he is directly vibrating at the utmost highest vibration, and he's enjoying that living. So now if I give you the choice, what will you want to do? We have a very short span of life. Do you agree on that?
True.
Let's say we have 50, 60, 70, 80. If we live a very good natural life, we are above 70, 80, 100 years. But nowadays, we have a lifespan of around 60, 70 years. So if I give you the option, what do you want? Do you want to invest the life in proving a mathematical equation, or to be into the state of Buddhahood?
Be into the state of Buddhahood.
Exactly. And being into this state of Buddhahood, I'll tell you, the scientist will actually make more complications for the world. For an example, the scientist who developed the nuclear warheads, at the deathbed, he told to the world, it's been documented. So he told what a monster I created. I'm actually a monster, and what a monster I created for the world. It has been documented. All the scientists have said that on their deathbed. The psychologist and the psychiatrist, at their deathbed, they said that what I had did all my life was actually false. And it has been documented. So people, those who are watching, they can very much search about it. That what this psychologists, psychiatrists, these doctors and the scientists have done. But at the same time, when we refer to the Buddha, so being at his vibrations and the way he contributed to his Buddhahood, it is more than that of a scientist. It is more than that of a doctor. Is it not so?
True. Very
A
true.
meditator actually contributes a lot to the world, even by taking the credit. The sciences of all our ancient scriptures, they are beyond the mind, because we cannot put them into logic. We cannot put the experience of enlightenment or awakening into logic. We can say some words about it, but the silence, we cannot express the silence. The silence has to be experienced by you. The silence has to be experienced by your system. Then only you will know. If I go on talking about the goodwills of a mango, you will not believe in that unless and until you taste it for yourself. That, oh, it is the real king of fruits. This is where the great difference is. The mind wants to put it in rational terms, in the logic which he wants to reduce. He or she, the mind, wants to reduce it. But the entire science of sound therapy, Nada yoga, the entire experience of this true art form of yoga and the awakening, what our scriptures have been given to us, it is beyond that comprehension. And if we start to put them in metrics, then we are at loss. It is not about the scriptures, and it is not about even the masters and the saints who have given it to us. The new humanity should have some, you can say, should have a new living in a way. Should ignore these facts. We should experience. And even if the experience doesn't come, then of course we can go towards the scientific facts. But now the science, as we see, the science is now coming to all the conclusions to which our scriptures have been noted. The reality that I have given, because I have seen people in my short span of experience, I have seen people who have done that. So I know for a matter of fact, if we really go with the, with the ego mind, the life becomes a very conflicting situation. We do not enjoy the small things. We do not enjoy our family. We do not enjoy the work that we are in. We do not enjoy anything. So the mind is very expert in the drama.
Very true. If you, it's literally as simple as that. We have conditioned ourselves right from childhood to be around stress, tension, which then creates the drama. Be it right from childhood. Have you studied for your exam? Have you prepared for the exam? You have homework, this is your deadline. Like, it is constant stress right from childhood. So we are somehow programmed and conditioned in that manner, which then replicates to when we are grown up and we are leading our life. We are constantly seeking for drama in every phase of life. Like, there are times when I've even had clients and they're like, after a couple of sessions, they're like, my life is just so peaceful now. And I'm like, that's a good thing. They're like, yeah, but we were so used to this constant adrenaline that we were looking for, that rush of constant drama and constant stress, that adapting to this peaceful life just feels different. So I'm like, yeah, obviously, if you've lived a life of 28 years of constant terror, trauma, drama, stress, it's going to take a toll on you. And then this shift is going to take some time to adapt to. But when you live in this life in a peaceful manner, you will see the difference. You will see the longevity of your life, and you will see the impact it has on you on so many levels. Moving on to this next question, because you spoke so passionately about it. So I want you to enlighten me and the viewers on these two topics. What is divine love and what is divine compassion, and how can we attain that?
So in the BodhMarga, we have this the beautiful project Mauli. The word Mauli is a Marathi word. Mauli is nothing but the motherhood. So when we refer to being to be in the state of divine love and compassion, it is basically the utmost highest state through which the human can experience the divinity within. If you want to grow in the devotion, if you want to experience the peak of life, the adrenaline of the life itself in a good way, then the emotions of the love, the compassion, it is not even emotion, it is beyond the emotions. So that state is referred to the state of Ananda or Swananda. It is the state of blissfulness, and that state of blissfulness is nothing but when you enter into the state of Mauli. That blissfulness happens to you when you are actually an unconditional mother. Because let's get honest, only a mother knows how to love. Because the human system is in designed in such a way that it will be always in a conflict. It will be either in 0 or 1. It will be in some lower emotion or in some higher emotion. But if you want to go towards the peak, if you want to transcend this limiting nature, then the state of Mauli can be the answer. Because in that divine compassion, we are one. Basically, we are one with the self, and we are one with the another person that is in front of us, or the group of persons that we are in front of us. So the divine love or the divine compassion is nothing but the state of unconditional motherhood in which you are just one with the entire universe. And that state of oneness is a divinity to be experienced. It is the graceful form. Because if you see a mother, even though she will go through a lot of traumas, tortures, just to protect the child, and it is out of love, it is not out of any transaction, it is not out of any self created interest, it is not about from any compulsion behavior, it is only and only out of love. So only mothers know how to do that. And when I'm referring to the mothers, it's not about the biological mother. It is about the state. It is about the vibrations of you going into the state of Mauli. It is about the tattva. So we have different tattvas in our life. Basically, Stri tattva, basically the divine feminine, the Purush tattva, the divine masculine, the Guru tattva, which is the highest form of any vibration, the Guru. And then at that similar level, it is about the Mauli tattva. That is why if we see our ancient saints, all the saints have been referred either by she or like a female. Even if the person is, even the saint, if he's a male in a male body, the followers always refer to that saint as she or Mauli, as a as a representative of the state of motherhood. Because the even when we refer to our planet, we refer to as Mother Earth, because she's taking care of us. All the energies that we have been represented in our culture, they have been largely attributed to the feminine aspect, to the graceful aspect, to the devotional aspect. And to experience that, it is a very rare phenomenon. And at BodhMarga, we are actually doing all the actions, conducting all the activities, so as to that all the people can experience that state of Mauli within themselves.
It's very divine, to be very honest, what you've just said. Thinking about it, because I was conducting a session a couple of days ago and I was having this conversation with the people in that session as to what is the divine feminine and what is her role in our life. So this was very much in relationship with what you said, that the divine feminine is all about nurturing, nourishing, the unconditional love, the unconditional compassion that comes through the divine feminine is very much in relation with what you just said about Mauli. So thank you.
And there is a very important aspect to this, because when we are not into the vibrations of love, we are into the state of hate. Why people are acting, in a very anxious manner? Why people are in such a hateful situation? Why people are depressed? Why people are in conflicts? Why people are in jealousy? Why people are actually in this turmoil like situations? It is simply because they have not experienced this state of love. They have not experienced this state of motherhood. That is why in the absence of love, people are in turmoil. In absence of love, people are addict. In absence of love, they become very depressed person. In absence of love, they become an agitated identity. So the moment the love comes in one's life, the compassion comes in one's life. It is very difficult saying that, I love somebody. This love is not about the relationship. Once again, I would like to clarify. This love is not about the relationship that you are in. It is very easy to say that, I love somebody, I'll forgive you, I'll be okay, let's be in compassion now. It is very easy to say, but it is very difficult to achieve the state in terms of energy, in state of you actually experiencing the vibrations. And sound therapy and Nada Yoga is a way through which the external baggage, the burden can be reduced, so that at least you are now prepared to experience this state of compassion. Because it takes a lot of effort, again, it takes a lot of sadhana to reach the state of compassion.
Moving on to the next question. Now, this is something again trying to understand. What is the difference between ragas and frequency?
Talking about the music therapy or the ragas. So sound therapy is broadly classified, again when I referred to the internal sound and the external sound. And again, sound therapy has one more part to it, which is the music therapy. So music therapy, the only true music therapy in our Indian culture is about the raga chikitsa. The ragas are nothing but a combination of surs, swaras, and a combination of frequencies. A frequency is a single tone. For an example, there can be a particular hertz frequency. So that is a singular tone, a singular frequency. But ragas, it is a combination of multiple tones, combination of multiple frequencies. And these combinations have to go hand in hand with Ayurveda. then only the raga chikitsa can be done, or else it is only for the entertainment. For an example, there are two parts again in ragas. One in which you can do the service to the god, which is the chikitsa aspect, because in the ancient culture of India, any art form, it was only used for healing the consciousness. It was always used to recover a balance and to seek the God, to seek the liberation. Any art form, you take it the music, you take it the ragas, you take it the dance form, you take the paintings, the kala. So all the art forms were directly attributed for seeking the God. Only when the invasion started to happen, then the shift started to move towards pleasing the kings, pleasing the courtsmen, pleasing the people around. So then the shift from enlightenment to entertainment started to happen. So in the raga chikitsa, if the entire focus is towards the enlightenment and towards the consciousness, and there has to be a combination of frequencies and a combination of ayurveda, then we can actually call it as a raga chikitsa. And if you normally sing the ragas the way nowadays people are doing, then it is for pleasing the mind and it is for pleasing as an entertainment form. Nothing good and bad about it, but if they can be attributed towards the god, nothing like it.
Thank you. Thank you for enlightening me on that topic. The last question of today's interview. I have so many more questions, but we have to keep in mind the time. So, the last question for today's interview: how can one implement sound therapy and Nad Yoga to attain divine abundance?
So to implement the sound, it is very easy. One can start by the practices that we teach in the BodhMarga. We teach the Vitthal Kriya. So with certain sounds uttered by our own self, we can achieve the abundance within. So if you want to implement the sound therapy and the Nad Yoga immediately, you can learn the Vitthal Kriya. You can just search Vitthal Kriya on Google or YouTube, and you will get a couple of videos through which you can start to practice the initial form of Nad Yoga. And then we have curated certain soundtracks in which we have made the digital soundtracks in such a way that we have implemented certain frequencies in that, encoded certain frequencies and subliminal frequencies. And these digital soundtracks can help you to eradicate certain negative vibrations that are currently troubling you. So the immediate pathways is that you can start to implement the kriya. You can start to listen this soundtracks called as Wellness Vibe app. And apart from that, the singing bowls. The singing bowls is a very divine tool. It's a siddha tool which helps us to recorrect our vibrations, to help us balance our physiological, psychological conditions, and to even correct our vastu. So the singing bowls can definitely help you if you can get them. There are certain science in that, and we make them handmade. So as per the Ayurveda, so it has to be consecrated in such a way that the divinity is still preserved, and there is a combination of metals used in the singing bowl. So once that tool can also be utilized for awakening the consciousness, for awakening the certain frequencies that we have, because the abundance is there within you. It is about you eradicating the noise around that abundance. So these are the three pathways that people can right away, the viewers can right away implement to start their practice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this divine wisdom and knowledge that you have not only shed light upon for me, but also for my viewers out there. It's been very beautiful having this conversation with you, learning so much about so many multiple topics. I don't think we've hit one topic, we have hit multiple topics throughout this conversation. So, thank you so much for being so patient and taking us through this entire conversation.
Thank you once again, Gauriji, for inviting me to be on the channel and to be a part of a process in which we are helping as many individuals to show them the guidance, to create a kind of an awareness that yes, there are certain ways, there are certain modalities through which we can achieve back the holistic abundance that is there within us. So thank you once again to Gauri ji and to your team for inviting us.
If you want to get in touch with Advait, all his information is in the comment section below, and so is the information of the BodhMarga Foundation. It's all in the comment section below. So if you want to get in touch with Advait or the practitioners at the BodhMarga Foundation, please go to the comment section and find their information and tap on it. And thank you so much for watching today's episode. For more such conscious content, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon, because I will be updating you every Sunday with a beautiful video that will enlighten you, uplift you, and definitely make you think and shift perspectives. So until next time, have a blessed week ahead. Thank you.